Hey PTC family, this is Chris Saldana, the co-host of the PTC Cast. I just wanted to give you all a heads up. Unfortunately, the microphone audio was corrupted for this podcast, so we had to use the camera audio, which is of lower quality. It still sounds decent, not as good as the microphone audio, but we had a great 40-minute conversation, so we wanted to make sure that we still made this accessible for whoever would like to listen to it. So this is episode 27 of the PTC Cast. And we hope you enjoy. Also, don't forget to go to progressthroughchange.com/fat loss to get your free 4 Easy Habits for Fat Loss guide. It helped me lose over 175 pounds. It has helped Alex's clients lose a whole lot of weight and improve their lifestyle. So go ahead and check that out. It takes only a couple seconds to sign up for it, and then you'll get it in your email for you to download. Again, that's progressthroughchange.com/fat loss. I hope you enjoy this episode.
Dude, you know what's crazy is The Rock is like getting close to turning 50. I'm pretty sure he's 49, and he's like in the best shape of his life.
Yeah, he looks amazing.
That's wild. Yeah, and it makes me wonder too, like, you know, I'm sure the drugs are part of it as well, but you know, what are we starting to just learn more about nutrition and diet and exercise and all these things? Because, like, you know, you got some top tier bodybuilders that are in like their late 40s and 50s. A guy named Phil Clahar is like, I want to say he's like mid 40s, almost 50, and he got like second at the Texas Pro last year, which is like a pretty big deal, man.
Yeah.
Dexter Jackson competed till he was like 48, 49, like, so I don't know. It seems like we're just learning more about nutrition and stuff. But yeah, The Rock has just been like jacked his whole life, but it's like he's just getting better with time.
Yeah, he's like dialing it in now.
Yeah.
Or I guess I say that, but I haven't looked at his, past. But real quick, what's the like prime age for, bodybuilding back in the day? Like, for people to be able to win these competitions.
Don't quote me on this, but the guys I think used to retire like closer to like their mid 30s.
Oh wow.
Yeah, don't quote me on that. But and a lot of the guys today are taking it, a little closer to 40, like a little longer on.
Mm-hmm.
But bodybuilding is one of those weird things, right? Because you need the time to build the muscle, but you still need to be young enough to be lean enough to continue the training, to continue the stress it takes on your body. So you have to find this weird like Goldilocks zone. Like, you have young guys that, build a tremendous, like an ungodly amount of muscle really quick and then are on the pro stage. There's a couple of like top 6 at the Olympia right now. There's 2 guys who are like, I want to say under 26, 27, or like right around that age. Mm-hmm. And so you have your genetic freaks like that, but for the most part, it's that weird thing where you have to have the time to build the muscle, and then you still have to be young enough to maintain the look and the training and all of that.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like, in professional basketball, you hit 30 and you start to slow down a little bit. Like, some guys are just hitting their stride in bodybuilding at 30. So I don't know. It's interesting. What about powerlifting? Are there a lot of like older guys at the gym that you find that are hitting some big numbers?
I guess not specifically at my gym, because we're a bodybuilding gym, not a powerlifting gym at Destination Dallas.
I guess I knew a lot of bodybuilders trained out there, but
yeah.
I guess I always kind of assumed that, like, with it being a kind of an old school hardcore training environment, that you would just get people who are interested in that kind of training there.
Yeah, so at their last location, there was a lot more powerlifters there.
Yeah.
But ever since they closed that last location and, moved locations, they're like powerlifters have kind of just been, leaving here and there, going to powerlifting specific gyms.
Mm-hmm. Is there like what are some specific things you need at a powerlifting gym? Because to my knowledge, you need a barbell, a rack, and some plates, and so you could theoretically do it anywhere. And obviously, you want a specific environment and, different people around depending on who you are, but it seems like you could, we got people that powerlift at any time.
Yeah. I'd say, like, ideally for like a minimum standard, you would need a bar with decent knurling and circle plates, not those, hexagon plates or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
And the reason why I say that is because, when you deadlift, it'll like roll around.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big one. Yeah. You mean like just rocking it like you're at a boat or something.
Yeah, dude.
You hit one side and it pops.
Exactly.
Sure.
I remember deadlifting at a Texas Family Fitness.
Oh my
and
God.
Dude, I built a lot of strength. A lot of strength from there, but that was, one
That's
of the main
big
problems.
Thing, is you can't deadlift, right?
Yeah, you set down the bar and it's like all
It's
crooked, and then you're building,
for sure.
imbalances, and you may be injured, whatever.
I don't know who thought hexagonal plates was a good idea.
I don't know.
Because
they're easy to grab. They're a lot
But if a circular one's got a handle on it.
Yeah, true.
But anyway, so a bar with good knurling, like circular plates, like most plates are, bumper plates, I guess, like at least.
But yeah, you don't really need bumper plates. Other than that, like that's it. I mean, I guess obviously dumbbells and like you would need benches, a squat rack,
well, I guess
that stuff.
You gotta have good bars too, right? Like you gotta have like a Texas bar, or like a Rogue Ohio bar, or something like that.
Honestly, you don't even need those. That's like getting more specific into powerlifting. Like, yeah, it would be better to have them, but like again, you don't need them.
Yeah.
You can train unless you're doing crazy ass numbers to where you don't want to walk it out with the bar going like this.
Yeah.
Then you're not going to need a squat bar. You're not going to need a Ohio bar.
Yeah.
But yeah, beyond that, it's just how specific do you want to get with your powerlifting training and the actual meet.
Yeah.
Because obviously at the actual meet they have kilo plates, specific bars and specific racks and all of that.
Right.
And it's going to help, to be able to train with that.
Right.
But again, you don't really need it. I know that there's a lot of powerlifters, like the ones that actually left Destination Dallas was because, they didn't have the kilo plates or any of that, which I don't know. I feel like that's kind of silly. Like if that's the only reason, especially because those plates cost like $100 per plate.
Jeez.
Like,
yeah.
But if other gyms around the area offer it, then hey, it's your choice,
Well, it's one of those things too that to me it makes sense to practice how you play, but there's certain things like I'm not sure if the specific plates matter that much as far as like having like the kilo Olympic plates. Like you're talking about the ones that are like colorful and they're like actual steel or whatever.
Yeah, and they're
pretty thin, but they're heavy as all hell.
Yeah, I will say the training differences is pretty drastic.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, especially the stronger you get.
Mm-hmm.
Like on deadlifts.
Is it because of the way the load is distributed
exactly.
on the bar? Okay,
with iron plates, them being, that thick.
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, you stack 8 of those.
Yeah.
Dude, you're going to have some insane whip on the bar.
Yeah.
But with kilo plates, the bar like there's barely any whip on the bar.
It's all locked in and loaded. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the way that you perform the deadlift has to be completely different because if you just go in and try to yank that off the ground,
it's not gonna work.
Yeah, it's gonna just pull you forward.
Yeah.
You have to like pull the slack. It's just a different process.
Yeah.
When it comes to lifting those.
Yeah,
weights.
that can make sense to me. And I think there's like some other things too, like having a competition height bench or like having a I always forget the name of the contraption, but where you don't have to walk out your squat, where you can just stand up and flick it out.
How do I?
But I mean, we're sitting here talking about like the big boy numbers, So I'm not sure if that's super critical for general pop, but no, I mean, it makes sense to me to practice the way you play.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be better to practice the way you play, especially if you're a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
Just because whenever you get to the meet. If you've been practicing with all of that equipment and all that style for, the past months, years, you're going to perform probably better.
Are there any other gyms that you've trained at, like in North Texas, outside of Destination?
Yes, Metroflex the Castle.
Is that in Arlington? Fort Worth.
Yeah, there's one in, I believe, Plano. And that one's pretty cool if you're looking for like a, very, and I don't mean this as like insulting or anything, like a very junkyardy, nasty gym to train in.
And that's what that's what a lot of people want.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Like all the weights are like rusty and there's no AC.
Yep.
There's just one big ass fan. Yep. And the environment there is brutal, dude. It's brutal.
It's very old school powerlifting, like rusted barbells and plates kind of thing.
Yeah, man. Like you go in there to work. You go in there to work. And the one at Fort Worth is also really badass. That's a lot more, I guess you could say, like powerlifting specific. Yeah. They have kilo plates, they have power bars, they have
not as down and dirty though.
It's still a little bit grungy, but definitely not as much as the one in Plano.
Yeah.
And they have like boxing, they have strongman, they have all of that stuff. So it's really badass. But I love Destination Dallas, and I'm gonna always stay loyal to Destination Dallas.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you definitely have some brand loyalty to them for sure.
Yeah, man.
One thing that I've noticed is I've trained at 3 different gyms. Trained meaning worked and done my business out of it. The first one was Pack, which was kind of a mom and pop shop, like
the environment there was really cool, man.
Yeah, and so it was a cool community, but it wasn't there was maybe a couple people powerlifting or bodybuilding or whatever, but for the most part I would consider it like a general big box gym, just on a smaller scale maybe. Whereas, the Cell was the next place I trained at, which was literally like a metal building, no AC, big fans, like turf flooring, like metal, rusted plates, that kind of thing. And then now being at Anytime, which is like, basically like a small LA Fitness, you know, it's just a small, like big box gym. But I have noticed, like, it's interesting, right? Because, when I was training at the Cell, it was like, you see someone squat 405, it's just another Monday. But man, if there's more than 3 plates on a bar at Anytime Fitness, everybody's like, man, everybody. And it's like, I guess it's like big fish in a small pond kind of thing, but it is interesting, like, the differences there and how people notice and how people train and portray themselves. So, because it's funny, man, like Anytime Fitness, you'll have some people who are just like, you have your oddballs out there, they're deadlifting 405 for reps and all these things. Whereas, other people are like sitting on like the ab rotation and just like going to town, So I guess it's a little bit more general population, but like me personally, out of all the 3 gyms I've trained at, like, and I guess now 4 being my house, which is where I've trained for the last year and a half, maybe 2. I don't know, man. Like, it doesn't really make a difference for me, but I'm not really, I'm not at a point in a powerlifting career where I need specific equipment, or a bodybuilding career where I need specific equipment, So like I've been able to make everything I need to work, but I don't know if it ever really like made a difference for me personally.
I will say, I think one of the like most important things when it comes to picking a gym is the environment. And the reason why I say that is, like, at a commercial gym, it's kind of weird, or the environment is completely different than a gym like Destination Dallas, because at a commercial gym, I feel like there's not a lot of camaraderie there. Like, maybe, you meet one person, and you talk to them here and there. But you don't really.
There's no actual community.
And there's no like, let's go, like, yelling or anything like that. There's no like really strong emotional attachment to a lot of the people there. And I don't know if that sounds silly or not. No, but when you go to a gym like Destination Dallas, that's a lot less commercially, or just any other gym like that. Sorry. It's really cool to see how encouraging like everybody is. And if you're lifting a PR, no matter what it is, even if it's 225 on squat or something like that, bro, there's gonna be people around you like cheering you on, which is really freaking cool. And it's addicting, honestly. And it like propels you to your fitness goals. And that's like one of the biggest things that I love about my gym, and why I probably won't ever go to a commercial gym, even if I stop powerlifting or stop doing a specific sport. And
it seems like to me that it really just comes down to the way that you want to train, because there's big box gyms like Planet Fitness is one I like to talk about, because people like to dog on it, including myself, right? Because we got the lunk alarm.
It's a funny joke.
All these silly rules, but it's like, look, man, it's $10 a month for like a fuck ton of equipment and a lot of different gyms available, and I'm pretty sure they're 24 hours now. So like it's a pretty great deal for $10 a month if you're somebody who's looking to like be healthy, develop a little bit of strength. Like, they have dumbbells, they have a Smith machine. Like, you might not have like an open bar or plates or anything like that, but like in that scenario, like, it's a great option. But if you're somebody who's classifies himself as a power lifter, Planet Fitness might not be your place. So it's one of those things where it's like, what are you looking for and what do you need? And I think that's kind of, sometimes when people look for gyms, I think it might be like a convenience thing or a price point thing, which, obviously is important to keep in mind, especially if we're talking about adherence over a long time. Maybe it's easier to get to a gym that's 5 minutes away versus 20 minutes away. But at the same time, like, it's going to affect the way you train and the way you want to train. There's how many freaking Instagram or YouTube videos do we see of people getting kicked out of gyms for deadlifting because they're smashing the plates and they just kind of like barely tapped them, So I don't know. It's kind of one of those weird things, man, where it's like you just have to really feel out the place before you commit to it. So, I guess that's my big thing there. So, would you ever, given that being a powerlifter, you just need like a bar, a plate, and plates and like a rack, would you ever train like out of a garage space or like by yourself?
Honestly, no. If I was doing powerlifting, no. Just because, when it gets to a certain, type of or a certain amount of weight, I just feel a lot more comfortable having spotters. And not only that, I've made a a lot of friends at, the gym. So, it's also, a social space. Some days going there, obviously not as much on the heavy days, but I really do enjoy, just chilling and talking to people in between my sets. And I don't think that I would ever get a home gym, honestly.
Yeah. And so I think it's a little bit different for me because between Monday and Thursday, I'm at the gym for 40 hours.
Yeah.
And so so for me, it's when I'm training at home, I can be by myself and not, I don't want to say not have to talk to people because that sounds a little antisocial.
No, but be able to focus.
I can, put my head down and kind of do my own thing and not have to play the social game or anything like that. And part of it is too, I've become a little bit of a brat. I want to be able to do my own supersets and move the way I want to move and not have to wait on equipment.
Yeah, man.
And not that it's a big deal to ask somebody to work in or anything like that, but it's just the ability to go at my own pace. And I've also found man, I was thinking about this morning. Right now I changed my split up a little bit. I'm training 5 days a week and then I'm doing 2 days of cardio and yoga.
Nice.
And man, it's been nice. But what I've noticed is I don't think I would have been able to make that happen if I didn't have a home gym. Just with the craziness of life, building the business and every other commitment that you have, there's something about me being able to roll out of bed, grab a cup of coffee, catch my breath, get a drink of water and then get out to the gym.
Yeah, it's a lot more convenient than having to drive to another.
Yeah, for sure. And part of it is too, I like having the dogs out there. I like being able to just have my own little space and the garage door up. And my neighbors probably hate it, but that's okay. So no, probably not. But but I definitely know what you mean though. Whenever I first started lifting, I was around 16, 17, and it was at PAC, right there in back in Prosper, and I know a big thing that kept me involved and motivated and we'll say committed at the time was just knowing I'm going to see the same people. And at that time, I had training partners. So that was a big, I don't know, it's just an extra layer of accountability. And I don't even necessarily know if I needed that, but it was also, like you said, that feeling of community. It was exciting to see there was a social aspect to it as well. There was a pushing aspect. It was all right, well, if I just did 5 reps, my gym training partner's going to go for 6. And then next set, well, I better do 7.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so it's kind of that healthy competition. Yeah, for sure. And so sometimes I definitely miss that. But with anything, man, it's just you get some, you give some, right? It's there's perks and downfalls to each. But I think that, in your case, pushing these crazy powerlifting numbers, you definitely need a certain environment and you definitely need certain training partners and certain parameters around that. But, have you ever trained with the kilo plates, outside of competition or anything like that?
Yeah, actually, this prep was the first time that I actually, trained with kilo plates on squat and deadlift. And like I was saying earlier, it's a completely different ball game, man.
Yeah.
Real quick, to rewind with the social thing though, I will say it's starting to get to the point where it is getting annoying. People will walk up to me and start so that's a little crappy.
And you never say it to seem like a jerk or anything like that.
But when you're trying to focus and yesterday I don't mind spotting people, but yesterday I was doing tricep push downs. I got 1 set in, and then I went to go wrap this girl. I spotted her. Then I went to go lift off an incline bench with this dude named Johnny.
Yeah.
I spotted him, and then I had to go do a lift off for this dude named Charles. Did that, and then I was.
Meanwhile, you were supposed to do your second set 3 minutes ago.
So but it is what it is. With the kilo plates though, This is my first training block that I actually, committed to the kilo plates instead of just trying it here and there. And dude, it's been, it's really fun. Especially on squat. It actually makes the squat easier.
Because there's no width with the bar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even with the squat bar, the 65 or 55 pound bar, when you have 7+ on it, no, I'd say 750+ on it, and you unrack it aggressively, it'll be boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And I remember earlier in this prep, before I started the prep actually, I put on 850 on the bar, and I missed it because when I unracked it, it was and that's also my bad. I forgot how it felt to squat 850, and I wasn't able to control it, but it took a good, like imagine holding 850 for a good 10 seconds before you squat.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do in order for it to stop moving. And it was still.
You think how much energy you're wasting just trying to get that bar still.
Yeah, man, especially with, knee reps on.
Yeah, for sure.
Crank.
Like you're losing circulation.
Yeah, crank to the max. You got the adrenaline. And
yeah, for sure.
But with the kilo plates, because they're almost, half the size of the iron plates, they barely budge.
Yeah.
And then with the deadlift, again, you can't just yank it off the ground. You have to almost like pry it off of the ground.
Like slowly? What do you mean?
Not slowly, but you have to work with your body, like try to wedge your body into the deadlift and then like explode up. With the regular plates on deadlift, you can be a little lax when it comes to the wedging and then explode up, but with the kilo plates, it'll pull you forward if you try to do some crap like that.
Well, it's also with, with the regular plates, the weight's so spread out that if the bar's bending and you pull, like, first the inner plates are coming off and then gradually the outer plates are coming off. And so there's just kind of a dissonance there.
You could do a little cheating.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if I'd call it cheating, but it's just like a different feeling. And again, it may sound like you're splitting hairs, but when you're talking about like that much load or that much intensity, like the slightest change can make a difference for sure. Yeah,
and last week or the week before last week, I actually wanted to have a little bit more fun, and I put a thick ass bumper plate on the deadlift bar, like for the first plate.
Yeah,
and you could like the difference when it came to the plates like slowly lifting off was insane, dude.
Really?
Yeah, because I was trying to just like throw it up like I usually do on deadlifts, and it wasn't working because the whip was so much. So I was like, okay, let me pull the whip out first.
Take your time.
And then throw the deadlift up. And dude, it was actually really fun, especially seeing the bar like.
That's funny, yeah. Just kind of bouncing around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely different like things that come with training like that I think a lot of people don't think about that just kind of add up over time. And I mean, that goes all the way down to like, the way the machines work, right? Or the cardio options they have available or whatever it may be. So, yeah.
Yeah, I actually just started using machines too.
What are you using?
On the chest machine, and then obviously I guess
pin loaded or plate loaded?
Plate loaded.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Pin loaded. Oh yeah, plate loaded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to get them chest glutes,
all, for sure,
all pumped and juicy.
Yeah, for sure.
And then leg press, leg extensions, hamstring curls. Do you know the sissy squat?
Yeah. You've been doing those
a lot. I love that
nice,
thing, man.
Yeah, that'll blow your quads up, dude.
Yeah, dude. And then it's actually really helped with my, I guess, like knee pain.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't have any, meniscus pain or anything like that anymore. Yeah. And that was ever since I started doing like lighter weight, higher reps with quad work.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been a game changer.
That's awesome, man. I would say that's probably the biggest thing I miss about training out of the garage is I'll say plate loaded machines. That's probably the biggest one. I have the cable stack, I have a bar and plates and dumbbells and adjustable bench and pretty much everything I could need. But I would say like I've thought about like trying to clear some space and getting like a hammer strength high row or something like that. Like it would be a little over the top and pretty unnecessary probably, but like those are fun for sure. There's an extra level of like, you're on a guided path, and like if you can line things up the right way, then you can really take a muscle a lot closer to failure than you can on a lot of motions like, that are dumbbell, barbell, or cable, or, something that takes, when you have that external stability like you do on a machine, it can be a lot easier to take a muscle closer to failure than, having to be sure that your rotator cuff can hang around on your 25 reps of dumbbell press or something like that, So there is definitely like an extra benefit to using machines in those scenarios. And especially like, someone in your case, like, let's say you're benching all the time. Well, like, your shoulders are already getting challenged a lot. Your, all of the stability around those muscles are getting challenged a lot. So it's like you use those machines as a way to get in extra volume without having to challenge some of those other things.
And that was the exact point, because I didn't want to be overly fatigued in the other areas. And I noticed that my chest wasn't getting like as much stimulation as I wanted it to get, especially because I actually took out incline dumbbell bench press, and so I needed just more stimulus, and that machine worked out perfectly, and it made it to where I didn't have to do more bench press, and when I got fatigued, I'd be like rolling my shoulders, and then potentially injure myself.
Yeah. One thing that I will say, all machines are not made perfectly.
Yeah, no.
Not even close to perfectly. And surprisingly, a lot of machines, man, it's like the people who made them just like have never looked in an anatomy textbook or something like that. Like, I mean, there's a lot of machines, man, at every gym that I've trained at that like I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Like,
really?
Yeah, and I just mean that in a way of like, I don't think you'd like hurt yourself on them, but to me, they're just they're unoptimal, they're inefficient. Like, sometimes the movement pattern just like doesn't make any sense at all. And if you've ever seen like a hack squat where instead of being upright and the pad being on your shoulders, you're leaned forward and your hips are kind of locked in.
Ooh,
like, yeah, so there's
that just sounds painful.
I don't know, man. Sometimes like I don't think you can just like go around to each machine and just hit them all. Like that's some people's approach, is it's like, let me just hit every machine.
And if
like,
it hurts, whatever.
I guess you could, man, but like you're not guaranteed like safety or comfort on a machine or anything like that. Like I would say, if you're approaching it the wrong way, you might even be more likely to hurt yourself because you're stuck in a fixed range of motion that you might not be made for.
Yeah.
So that's another big piece with machines that I think is overlooked. Like they're definitely not made equally or perfectly,
I remember at a Texas Family Fitness, there was a shoulder press machine that was locked into, or for me, a shitty position.
Mm-hmm.
But because my bench was going up, I was like, this is the
my shoulder press guy. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So
I just got to keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I started messing up my rotator cuff, and it put me back months when it came to my bench.
Yeah. Cause you weren't made for it, man. And so I don't know. There's a lot of things like that we can try to like force ourselves into, but sometimes like, dude, it's not you, it's just the machine is shit,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, again, there's a lot of things that I wouldn't touch. So I don't know. Sometimes people put a little bit too much stock into machines. So I really think like the name of the game is, okay, let's say we're talking about training chest, right? And we'll talk about like a dumbbell bench press here, right? Well, in my opinion, if you can get it to the point where you feel almost nothing but your pecs in a dumbbell bench press, meaning you've refined your form to what works best for you, which is going to be, scapular retraction, being sure that your elbows are driving out and in kind of an arcing pattern. But depending on who you are, that's going to be varying levels of like abduction or adduction. So how deep your elbows are flared out or tucked in. But like, if you can learn how to make that free weight movement work, it's going to be a lot easier for you to lock yourself into a machine because you've understood how that muscle works the best for you, right? So it's like, okay, that if you're training pecs, well, you need to have a little bit of an arch. Well, if you go over to the machine chest press and you try to put your lower back down nice and flat, then you might just get nothing but front delt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
and you can usually like feel those, like feel the differences.
Yeah.
And so you just unconsciously, or not unconsciously, you can put yourself in the right position,
right? Exactly.
Without knowing exactly what that right position
exactly.
is.
Yeah, machines are fun, but like, in my opinion, I don't even want to call it a prerequisite, but it's like, look, if you can perfectly execute a bodyweight squat, your ability to execute a hack squat is going to be way better.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can do it without the stability, so the stability becomes not necessarily a crutch, but an extra, what's the phrase I'm looking for? It's not a crutch that you rely on, it's just something that helps you stay a bit more in line. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah, because
if you were to be doing squat, you could, start messing up your form and not get that volume that you wanted to get. But now that you know how it's supposed to feel, how the form is supposed to be, once you go to the hack squat, since you're locked in, you can, theoretically be able to do more.
But you had to know how to squat first, right?
Exactly,
if you just hop on that bitch and suddenly your knees are caving in and your feet are turned out all weird and you're, bending and extending your spine through it, like, just because you're on a machine doesn't mean it's going to move perfectly. Like, how many times do you watch someone on like a machine preacher curl and then like they get into extension and their shoulders shrug up to their ears and they curl up and then they're like leaning back and it's just, man, it's like a machine is not going to save you. It's a good tool to have in your belt and something that you can add in, but I really feel like you have to learn the prerequisites, man. So I will say, I think machines are best, and only the ones that are made well, but I think machines are best for back training because a lot of the times the bottleneck in back training is someone's ability to stabilize their spine and stabilize their pelvis, whether that's like a bent over row or even like a wall row or even like a one-arm dumbbell row. Like, a lot of the times that becomes the limiting factor, which obviously you want to get a hang and a hold on. But like, whenever I'm just trying to teach someone like how to engage their scapula and how to drive their elbow out or drive their elbow in or, any of those things, it's like, let's put you here first. So that way you can figure out this isolated movement. Then later we can pull it back and go into something where we're worried a little bit more about stabilizing your spine, right? So that's maybe a reverse order of operations there. So I guess, maybe you could look at it in two different paths, but like in my opinion, you can't rely on the machine. The machine can't be like the only way you can train something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I never thought about, back training like that, but that's exactly what I do with my back training, because I don't want, the lower part of my back to be giving out before the upper gets what it needs to get.
You're exactly right.
Yeah, and if I'm
your bottleneck.
Yeah, like imagine me doing, a shit ton of sets with bent over rows in order to do my
retraction. Exactly.
Like that doesn't make any sense. Why not just, get on something to take all of this, and not only that, the whole lower part of my body out of the equation.
And in this case specific scenario, you're someone who's squatting and deadlifting twice a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So your lower back is already toasted always. Your glutes are already toasted always. So it's
exactly.
That's when you can incorporate some of those machines. But you could do a barbell row to train your back if you needed to. Right. And I don't even want to say if you needed to, like you would have to, but I mean if you needed to, as in you could execute it. You know what I mean? You could stabilize your spine, your hips, your upper back, all of this musculature to hold yourself in position while you row. So you have that skill already, because you have to have that skill. If you go over to a machine row and you can't do those things as it is, well then what's to say you're not just bending and extending your spine through the row?
Exactly.
Or what's to say you're not shrugging up and down instead of shrugging forward and back?
You have to know how your body works before.
Yeah, you have to be able to execute it before. So it's definitely a good tool to have under your belt, but you can't lean on it, man. You can't rely on it. Like if your leg training is nothing but machines, you're gonna have shitty stability, man. Like that. You know what I mean? So that's a common bro mistake, right? Is like, okay, I'm gonna hit like 2 sets of leg extensions, 2 sets of curls, and 1 set of leg press, and that's all I'm doing for legs. And it's like, well, that's probably not gonna cut it. Like, what about the stability component? What about your calves? What about X, Y, and Z? So I don't know. I don't want to like break it down and say like this percentage should be free weights and this percentage should be machines. It's all going to be case specific, but it's like,
Do you think it's a good idea to at least have one compound movement in, each of your workouts to start with? Because I think that's a pretty decent rule to follow.
To start with, not necessarily. To build as much muscle as possible, probably. So, for example, what I like to do, particularly like in my leg training, is I always start with some sort of unilateral move, which is usually going to be like a lunge or a split squat, and that's just to wake up everything around hips, knees, and ankles. Right?
Yeah.
Whether that's adductors, glute med, stuff in around the calves and ankles, different things like that to prep that musculature. And whether you want to take that exercise to failure or close to failure is kind of up for debate. But I always like, if somebody random off the street asked me what they should do before they barbell back squat, I would say dead bugs and walking lunges.
100%,
what I mean? And usually if someone says they start their training session with a compound movement and no other sort of prep beforehand, that's like the first thing I'm going to change.
Yeah.
Is like, okay, we at least got to be doing like some light prep stuff to turn on these. I'm going to say turn on, which is probably a bro phrase, but I'm going to say turn on these stabilizing muscles. We have to learn how to move in these patterns, and then we're good to go.
Yeah, I guess I worded that wrong.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what I do.
Yeah.
Before I do any of my compound movements, bench, squat, or deadlift, I at least have like 15 to 20 minutes of, I guess, like activating the muscles that need to be activated so that I can actually perform the compound lift properly.
Right.
Or else, I could be not warmed up. I could get injured, and I could definitely get injured. Like I don't mean to say that as like something to just brush over.
Like scare people or anything.
Yeah. Like if I just hop straight into a squat without doing, my rollouts, my creams, my body weight squats, and a few other things, band work. Yeah, like I'm not going to be as prepared.
Yeah, man. Out of all the, I'm going to say scary things I see in the gym, the thing that scares me the most is when people just walk into the gym and load on their starting weight cold.
Yeah,
that's what scares me the most, man. Is like, I mean, the amount of times I see someone walk straight to a bench and throw on at least 135 scares me.
Yeah.
And I mean that from a standpoint of like, yeah, okay, sure. There's great power lifters and all these people out there that could probably do it cold. You and I could probably do it cold, sure. But like, if we're sitting here talking, no. And it's like, why would you not prepare yourself for that? Why would you not work up to that? Why would you not prep the joints around it? Why would you not prep your nervous system around it, man? Like, if you look, man, like let's say I'm warming up and I'm trying to do 315 on deads. And say I want to do 315 for 10, right? I need to take a set at 225, at 275, maybe even at 295, right? To prep my nervous system, prep my joints, tendons, and ligaments to be ready to move that weight. So that way when I hit that 315, I can just fucking hit it and go.
Exactly.
You know, and some people can go 135, 225, 315, and that's fine. Like that's a smaller, I would say maybe that's a bit of a regression, but it's kind of walking this fine line as far as starting your training with, you want to prep yourself and gradually warm up without tiring yourself out, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm going, like if my big set for that day is supposed to be 315 for 10, well then I'm not going to do 295 for 5 or something like that. Like my goal is not to like pre-fatigue myself. My goal is to get everything turned on, prepped, and ready.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, to put it even in like more perspective, the dude that I bench with, his name is Johnny. I would bet that he's a 600-pound bencher. He did 65 for an easy 2 reps.
Wow.
And he always starts off with band work. He always moves his stuff around.
Yeah.
And not only that, he never starts off with 135 on the bar. He starts off with the bar.
Yeah.
And sometimes he'll do that for 2 sets. And it's funny, whenever somebody's like waiting for I don't know why I did that, waiting for a squat bar that I'm using, or a bench that I'm using, or, a deadlift platform that I'm using, I always tell them, hey, do you want to start off with the bar? And they're like, no, leave 135 on. Yeah. And they, a lot of them, you can see that they take it as like an insult. And I'm like, I tell them, I start off with the bar. Like, I think it's a good idea, to get that blood flow. And they always say, yeah, you're right. Let's take it off.
Yeah, I think some people maybe just don't think about it, or they're in a rush and they're like, what can I cut out? I can cut out my warm-up stuff, or I can cut out my prep stuff. And
yeah, true.
I don't know. If you ask me, like, it's well worth taking the 3 to 5 minutes that an extra warm-up set or 2 takes. I mean, just for sake of making sure your top set is, and let's say you don't care about the safety, right? Like, let's say you're sure you're not going to get hurt and your form's perfect and whatever. Okay, that's fine. Well, you're going to be more efficient if you've prepped your nervous system for those heavier loads, man. Like, you're going to be way more efficient if you take your time getting ready for those things and asking a little bit more gradually than trying to just jump right into it. You can't just, there's not many people who can just turn it on like that.
Yeah, and that's like one of the most important things with the warm-up sets is you're able to like audit yourself. You're able to, see, oh wait, this didn't feel right. Why didn't it feel right? Because of this. Okay, on my next warm-up, I need to do this. Yeah. And then, so by the time you are at that top set, like you said, you're going to be way more efficient when moving it.
100%. And I know for me too, like, man, part of it is, let's say confidence and practice, right? Like, the golf swing is like my favorite example to use. Like, each exercise is its own golf swing, man. And when I mean that, what I'm saying is, like, every exercise is a certain routine of musculature firing, right, in a certain way every time. And theoretically, if you're trying to build muscle or move as much weight as possible, whatever that means, you're trying to do that same thing the same way every time. So why would you not take practice reps? You know? Like, I guarantee you, LeBron shoots a couple free throws before he goes right into a game. You know what I mean? It's that same idea. It's like, get some practice under your belt, man. Like, do a couple reps, like, be sure it feels good, be sure everything's good, and then hop into it.
And that'll build that confidence.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, part of it too is like the perfect practice makes perfect, right? So like, if you can practice, your 135 with perfect technique, and then your 225 with perfect technique, and then your 315 with perfect technique, like, whenever you get there, it's going to be a lot easier to maintain that versus just like, all right, I'm just going to pick this up and we'll see how it moves. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So I know what you mean all too well.
Yeah. Well, we're all guilty of just going in there and thinking we can grip it and rip it. And, I'd be lying if sometimes I say, okay, like if I'm racking a client's weight or something and we don't have the deadlift jack, like I might just pick up 225 real quick just to rack it. But it's not like it's anything, crazy or over the top. But all that to say, like, it really is worth the couple of minutes just to get yourself ready and willing.
Yeah.
So, that's my 2 cents there.
I like it. Same here.
Let's put a lid on it. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate it.